Glimpses of a Golden Childhood. Osho. Session 1. My birthplace, Guchiwada, was a village with no railway line and no post office. It had small hills, but a beautiful lake and a few huts, just straw huts. The only brick house was the one I was born in, and that too was not much of a brick house. It was just a little house. I can see it now and can describe its every detail, but more than the house of the village or the village, I remember the people. I have come across millions of people, but the people of that village were more innocent than any, because they were very primitive. They knew nothing of the world. I remained uneducated for those years, and they were the most beautiful years. Yes, I must confess I had a private tutor. That tutor was himself uneducated. He was not teaching me, but trying to learn by teaching me. He was a good man, nice, not like a nasty school teacher. To be a school teacher, one has to be nasty. He was a nice villager with great insight. Sometimes villagers have insight which civilized people lack. A beautiful woman comes to a beach. Seeing nobody around, she undresses. Just before she steps into the ocean, an old fellow stops her and says, "Lady, I am the village policeman. It is prohibited to swim in the ocean from this beach." The woman looks puzzled and says, "Then why did you not prevent me from getting undressed?" The old man laughs and laughs, with tears in his eyes. "Undressing is not prohibited, so I waited behind a tree." A beautiful villager. That type of people lived in the village. Simple people. It was surrounded by small hills, and there was a small pond. The village had an ancient pond, very ancient, and very ancient trees surrounding it. And the beautiful rocks all around, and suddenly the frogs jumped. Day in and day out, you could hear flop. This is the beauty of Basho. He could describe something without actually describing it. The ancient pond frog jumps in, flop. I am not a basho, and that village needed a basho. Silence of the ancient pond stays with me. Again, I am reminded of Himalaya, the snow. So pure. You can only see it through the eyes of a Bodhidharma, or Jesus, or Basho. There is no other way to describe the snow. The wild geese do not intend to cast their reflections. The water has no mind to reflect their images. And still the image happens. The Buddhas do not want to reflect the beauty of the world. Nor does the world in any way intend to be reflected by the Buddhas. But it is reflected. Nobody wills, but it happens. And when it happens, it is beautiful. Communication is a part of the world of the technician. Communication is the fragrance of the world of Master. This is communion. I am not speaking about anything in particular. The wild geese and the water. Session 2. I just had a golden experience. The feeling of a disciple so lovingly working on his master's body. I'm still out of breath because of it. And it also reminds me of my golden childhood. Everybody talks of his golden childhood, but rarely is it true. First, one has to choose one's birth. That's almost impossible. Unless you have died in a state of meditation, you cannot choose your birth. I died consciously, not in fact died, but was killed. I would have died 3 days later, but they could not wait, not even for 3 days. People are in such a hurry. You will be surprised to know that the man who killed me is now my sannyashin. He came to kill me again, not to take sannyas. But if he sticks to his game, then I stick to mine. He himself confessed later, after 7 years of being a sannyashin. He said, "Master, now I can confess. In Ahmedabad, I had come to kill you." My God, again. What do you mean by again? That's another matter. Go on. In Ahmedabad, 7 years ago, I came to your meeting with a revolver. The hall was so full that the organizers had allowed people to sit on the dais. So this man with a revolver to kill me was allowed to sit at my side. What a chance. I said, "Why did you miss your chance?" I'd never heard you before. I had only heard about you. When I heard you, I thought I would rather commit suicide than kill you. That's why I became a sannyashin. That's my suicide. 700 years ago, this man had really killed me. He poisoned me. Then too, he was my disciple. But without a Judas, it is very difficult to find a Jesus. I died consciously, hence I had the great opportunity to be born consciously. Thousands of fools are making love around the earth, around the clock. Millions of unborn souls are ready to enter into any womb whatsoever. I don't think my father ever looked at another woman with the same love he had for my mother. It is also impossible to imagine even for me, who can imagine all kinds of things, that my mother, even in her dreams, had another man. Impossible. I have known both of them. They were so close. Poor yet rich. They were rich in their poverty because of their intimacy, rich because of their love. Fortunately, I never saw my mother and father fighting. Look at my English. Put it in inverted commas so nobody misunderstands me. I have never seen my father and mother fight, not even nagging. I was worried about my mother when my father died. I could not believe that she would be able to survive. I have been continuously worried about her. I wanted her to be near me just so that she can die in utter fulfillment. Now I know. I have seen her. I have seen into her, And I can say to you, she has become enlightened. I was her last attachment. Now there is nothing left for her to be attached to. She is an enlightened woman, uneducated, not even knowing what enlightenment is. That's the beauty. One can be enlightened without knowing what enlightenment is. I choose this couple, just simple villagers. I could have chosen kings and queens. All kinds of rooms were available, but I am a man of simple tastes. Many of you have seen him and must have felt the beauty of the man. He was a simple, you could even call him just a villager, but immeasurably rich. $30, that was his sole possession. I would not have known it. I came to know only later on when his business was going bankrupt. And he was happy. I asked him, Dada. I used to call him Dada. Dada, soon you are going to be bankrupt. And still you are happy. What is the matter? Are the rumors false? He said, no, the rumors are true. Bankruptcy is bound to happen. But I'm happy because I have saved 700 rupees. It is good that my poor father is dead. Otherwise I would have given him trouble. But he had so much love and so much compassion for a vagabond son. I am a vagabond. I have never done anything for the family. They are not obliged to me at all. They have done everything for me. My childhood was golden. Again, I am not using a cliché. Everybody says his childhood was golden, but it is not so. For most of my very early years, I lived with my mother's parents. Those years are unforgettable. Even if I reach to Dante's paradise, I will still remember those years. I called my mother's father Nana. That's the way the mother's father is called. My mother's mother is called Nani. I used to ask my grandfather, Nana, where did you get such a beautiful wife? My grandmother looked more Greek than Indian. When I see Mukta laughing, I remember her. Perhaps that's why I have a soft spot in my heart for Mukta. For my first years, I knew my Nani as my mother. Those are the years where one grows. This sucker is for my Nani. My own mother came after that. I was already grown up, already made in a certain style. I remember an incident that I have never told before. It was a dark night. It was raining and a thief entered our house. My grandfather was a continuous pen chewer. Pen is betel leaf. Just like a chain smoker, he was a chain pen chewer. He was always making pen, and the whole day he would chew it. He started chewing pen and spitting it at the poor thief who was hiding in the corner. Grandmother said, "What would you like to do?" I said, "I will go and slapped the thief and threw him out. I was not more than 9. Grandmother laughed and said, "Okay, I will come with you. You may need my help." She was a tall woman. My mother does not resemble her. My mother is simple. I was shocked. I could not believe what I saw. The thief was a man who used to come and teach me, my teacher. I really hit him hard, more so because he was my teacher. I told him, "If you were only a thief, I would have forgiven you. But you have been teaching me great things, and you do these things. Now run away as fast as you can before my grandmother gets hold of you. Otherwise, she will crush you." She was a big woman, tall, strong, and beautiful. I remember that teacher, the village pundit, who also used to come and tutor me sometimes. He was the priest of the village temple. He said, "What about my clothes? Your grandfather has been spitting all over me. He has spoiled my clothes." My grandmother laughed and said, "Come tomorrow, I will give you some new clothes." The teacher never came to teach me again. Not that he was told not to, he did not dare. Even now I can see him with his eyes cast down, unable to answer me. My grandfather wanted the greatest astrologers in India to make my birth chart. Although he was not very rich, he was ready to pay any price for the birth chart. My grandfather came home weeping. I had never seen tears in his eyes. I asked, "What is the matter?" "I have to wait until you are 7. Who knows whether I will survive those years or not? Who knows whether the astrologer himself will survive? Because he is so old, and I am a little concerned about you." "What's the concern?" "The concern is not that you may die. My concern is that you may become a Buddha." I laughed, and amongst his tears he also started laughing. Then in himself said, "It is strange that I was worried. Yes, what is wrong in being a Buddha?" When my father heard what the astrologers had told my grandfather, he took me to Varanasi himself. But more of that later. When I was 7, an astrologer came to my grandfather's village searching for me. When a beautiful horse stopped in front of our house, we all rushed out. He said to me, "So you are still alive? I have made your birth chart." I was worried because people like you don't survive long. My grandfather told all the ornaments in the house just to give a feast for all the neighboring villages, to celebrate that I was going to become a Buddha. And yet I don't think he even understood the meaning of the Buddha. He was a Jaina and may not have even heard it before. But he was happy, dancing, because I was to become a Buddha. He said, "I don't know the meaning. It just sounds good. Moreover, I am a Jaina. We will find out from some Buddhist." He was so happy just because the astrologer said that I was to become a Buddha. he then said to me, I guess Buddha must mean someone who is very intelligent. He came very close. He almost guessed right. Alas, that he is not alive, otherwise he would have seen what being a Buddha means. Not the dictionary meaning, but an encounter with a living awakened one. And I can see him dancing, saying that his grandson has become a Buddha. That would have been enough to make him enlightened. But he died. His death was one of my most significant experiences. Session 3. Again and again, the miracle of the morning, the sun and the trees. The very idea of search is idiotic. One searches for that which is far away, and God is so close, closer than your own heartbeat. I say the priest is the farthest away from the truth. People ask me, do you believe in astrology, in religion? I don't believe in anything because I know. That reminds me of the story I was telling you the other day. The old astrologer came. My grandfather could not believe his eyes. The astrologer was so famous that even kings would have been surprised if we had visited their palace. Looking into his eyes, although I was only 7 and I could not read a word, I could read his eyes. They don't need your 3 R's. I said to the astrologer, it is strange that you traveled so far just to make my birth chart. Varanasi in those days, and even now, is far away from that village. The old man said, I had promised, and a promise has to be fulfilled. The way he said, a promise has to be fulfilled, thrilled me. Here was an alive man. I said to him, if you have come to fulfill your promise, then I can predict your future. What? You can predict my future? Yes. You are not going to become a Buddha, but you are going to become a bhikkhu, a sannyasin. He laughed and said, impossible. You can bet on it. How much? It doesn't matter. You can bet any amount. Because if I win, I win. If I lose nothing because I don't have anything. You are gambling with a child of 7. Can't you see it? I don't have anything. You will be surprised to know that I was standing there naked. In that poor village, it was not prohibited. I can still see myself standing there naked. The old man said, okay, if I become a sannyasin, a bhikkhu, and I will give this to you. He showed his gold pocket watch, studded with diamonds. And what about you? If you lose? I said, I will simply lose. I don't have nothing. No gold wristwatch to give you. I will just thank you. He laughed and departed. I don't believe in astrology. 99.9% of it is nonsense, but 0.1% is pure truth. A man of insight, intuition, and purity can certainly look into the future because the future is not non-existential. In India, the bride covers her face with the gungat. Now it is difficult to translate this word. It is just a mask. I don't believe in astrology. I mean the 99.9% of it. The remaining 0.1% I need not believe in. It is true. I was 14 and traveling around Varanasi with my father's father. He had gone on business and I had stubbornly insisted on going with him. I stopped an old bhikkhu on the road between Varanasi and Sarnath and said, "Old man, do you remember me?" He said, "I have never seen you before." I said, "You may not, but I have to remember you. Where is the watch, the golden watch, studded with diamonds? I am the child with whom you gambled. Now the time has come for me to ask. I had declared that you would become a bhikkhu, and now you are. Give me the watch." He laughed and brought out from his pocket a beautiful old watch, gave it to me with tears in his eyes. And he touched my feet. I said, No, you are a bhikkhu, a sannyasin. You cannot touch my feet. Forget all about it. You proved to be a greater astrologer than I. Let me touch your feet. I gave that watch to the first of my sannyasin. The name of my first sannyasin is Ma Anand Madhu, a woman, of course, because that's what I wanted. Nobody has initiated a woman into sannyas like me. Buddha hesitated before giving sannyas to a woman. Even Buddha. Only that thing in his life hurts me like a thorn. Mahavira said that nobody in a woman's body could attain to nirvana, the ultimate liberation. I have to repent for all these men. Muhammad never allowed any woman into the mosque. Indira Gandhi was telling me that when she visited Israel and went to Jerusalem, she could not believe that the Prime Minister of Israel and herself were both sitting in the balcony, and all the men were sitting downstairs on the main floor. I have to apologize for Muhammad, for Moses, for Mahavira, for Buddha, and for Jesus too, because he didn't choose a single woman as one of his 12 apostles. I have to apologize to the future for all these people, and my first apology was to give sannyas to a woman. You will be amused to know the full story. The husband of Anand Madhu wanted to be initiated first. It happened in the Himalayas. I was having a camp in Manali. I refused the husband, saying, "You can only be second, not the first." He was so angry that he left the camp at that very moment. Not only that, he became my enemy and joined Morarji Desai. Later on, when Morarji Desai was Prime Minister, this man tried in every way to persuade him to imprison me. Of course, Morarji Desai does not have that kind of courage. Anand Madhu is still a sannyasin. She lives in the Himalayas, silently without speaking. Since then, my effort has always been to bring women to the front as much as possible. The first woman I loved was my mother-in-law. You will be surprised. Am I married? No, I am not married. That woman was Gudia's mother, but I used to call her my mother-in-law, just as a joke. I have remembered it again after so many years. My mother-in-law was a rare woman, especially in India. She left her husband, went to Pakistan and married a Mohammedan, even though she was Brahmin. She knew how to dare. I always liked the quality of daring, because the more you dare, the nearer you come to home. I am thankful to the man who declared my future when I was only 7. What a man to have waited until I was 7 just to make my birth chart. What patience! And not only that, he came all the way from Varanasi to my village. And when I met him on the road of Sarnath and told him that I had won the bet, he immediately gave me his watch and said, I would have given you the whole world, but I don't have anything else. In fact, I should not even have this watch, but just because of you, I have kept it all these years, knowing that any day you are bound to come. And when I became a bhikkhu, Buddha was not in my mind, but you, a naked 7-year-old child declaring the future of one of the greatest astrologers in the country. How did you do it? That I don't know. I looked into your eyes, and I could see that you could not be content with anything this world could give you. I saw the divine discontent. A man only becomes a sannyasin when he feels the divine discontent. I don't know whether the old man is still alive or not. It cannot be, otherwise he would have searched for me. But that moment in the life of the village was the greatest. They still talk about the feast. Just recently a person from that village came here. And he said, we still talk about the feast that your grandfather gave to the village. Those days were golden. Everything that happened in those years, I can again see like a film passing before me. It is unbelievable. What was I saying? Those days were golden. Everything that happened in those days, those 9 years, I can again see like a film. Good. The film is back. It was a golden time, in fact more than golden, because my grandfather not only loved me, but loved everything that I did. I was a continuous nuisance. The whole day he had to listen to complaints about me, and he always rejoiced in them. That is what is wonderful and beautiful about the man. He never punished me. Lao Tzu says, Tao is the water course way. The water simply flows downwards wherever the earth allows it. That is how those early years were. I was allowed. I think every child needs those years. Those days were full of offer. So many events, so many incidents that I have never told to anyone. I used to swim in the lake. Naturally, my grandfather was afraid. He put a strange man to guard over me in a boat. In the primitive village, you cannot conceive of what a boat means. It is called a dongi. It is nothing but the hollowed out trunk of a tree. It is not an ordinary boat. I learned balance through rowing a donkey. Nothing could be more helpful. I learned the middle way because you have to be exactly in the middle. The man who was put on guard to save me, I called him strange. Why? Because his name was Bura, and it means white man. He was the only white man in our village. He was not a European. It was just by chance that he did not look like an Indian. He looked more like a European, but he was not. I also called him strange because although I have come to know many people in the world, one rarely comes across such a man as Buddha. He was a man you could trust. You could say anything to him and he would keep the secret forever. This fact became known to my family only when my grandfather died. My grandfather had entrusted to Bora all the keys and all the affairs of the house and the land. Soon after he arrived in Gadarwara, my family asked my grandfather's most devoted servant, "Where are the keys?" My master told me, "Never show the keys to anybody else but me." Excuse me, but unless he asks me himself, I cannot give you the keys. And he never gave them the keys. So we don't know what those keys were hiding. Many years later, when I was again living in Bombay, Buddha's son came to me and gave me the keys and said, "We have been waiting and waiting for you to come, but nobody came. We have taken care of the land and looked after the crops and put aside all the money." I gave him the keys back and said to him, "Everything now belongs to you. The house, the crops, and the money belongs to you. I am sorry that I did not know before, but none of us wanted to go back and feel the pain." What a man! But such a man used to exist on earth. They are disappearing by and by, and instead of such people, you find all kinds of cunning people. These people are the very salt of the earth. I call Buddha a strange man because in a cunning world, to be simple is strange. It is to be a stranger, not of this world. My grandfather had as much land as one could desire, because in those days, in that part of India, land was absolutely free. You had just to go to the government office in the capital and ask for the land. That was enough. It was given to you. We had 1,400 acres of crops, which Buddha attended to. When my grandfather became sick, Buddha had said he would never be able to live without him. They had become so close. When my grandfather was dying, we took him from Kuchwada to Gadarwada because there were no facilities in Kuchwara to care for the sick. My grandfather's house was the only house in the village. When we left Kuchiwada, Buddha had given the keys to his sons. On the way to Kukadarwara, my grandfather died, and because of the shock, next morning Buddha did not wake up from his sleep. He died in the night. My grandmother, my father, and mother did not want to go back to Kuchiwada because of the pain it would cause us, because my grandfather had been such a beautiful man. Buddha's son is around the same age as me. It is only just a few years ago that my brother Niklanka and Chaitanya Bharati went back just to take pictures of the house and the pond. The house in which I was born, they are now asking 10 lakhs rupees for it, knowing that one of my disciples may be willing to purchase it. 10 lakhs, that is $100,000. And do you know, it was worth 30 rupees at the time my grandfather died. Even that was too much. We would have been surprised that anybody would be ready to give us even that. It was a very primitive part of the country. Just because it was primitive, it had something which is now missing from man everywhere else. Man should not be only concerned with his bank account. That is the most ugly thing possible. That means the man is dead. Bury him, celebrate, burn him. My grandfather not only helped me to know what innocence is, that is what life is, but he also helped me to know what death is. He died in my lap.